Good afternoon. Welcome to our Norwalk Author Festival Spotlight Speaker for Sunday. They call her Tigress, headstrong, untamable, a beast. Yin Yin defies the warnings of her late Shiftu, her martial arts master, and carries her ferocity from the Kung Fu school in the mountains of Wudang to the mixed martial arts fighting cages of California. Yin Yin's journey is told in the propulsive techno-thriller, The Girl from Wudang, a novel about artificial intelligence, martial arts, and immortality, by Emmy Award-winning, best-selling Brazilian author, P.J. Caldas. Caldas creates a thought-provoking and cinematic journey painting the landscape with classic kung fu movies, modern MMA fighting, artificial intelligence, neuroscience, and razor-sharp plot twists that will leave their mark, making The Girl from Wudang the year's most addictive new thriller. P.J. Caldas was picked by the Dictionary of Literary Biography as one of the most important Brazilian writers of the 21st century. He has published 4 books inspired by the mythology carried to Brazil by the African diaspora and reached the top 5 best-selling titles multiple times. Caldas is also a martial artist with 40 years of experience in combat sports, including Kempo, Karate, Wing Chun, Tai Chi, boxing, and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. He currently works in New York City and lives in Connecticut. So please join me in welcoming P.J. Caldas to the Norwalk Author Festival.
All right. So let me stay here where the wire goes. All right. So thank you very much. So first of all, thank you to the organizer here. The work we were talking about how important the work you do is, and to connect the communities and protect us from these cultural pandemic that is kind of getting this closed-mindedness pandemic that is hitting the world. In Brazil, in here, I've been seeing everywhere. So thank you very much. First of all, appreciate the space and what you're doing for us. It means a lot. So second thing is that so I launched this book 2 weeks ago, and just to have a sense here, let's start with artificial intelligence. Have you been reading about it? Is it frightening? Is it exciting? How does it feel? Both?
Yes. Mixed feelings, yes.
Who's scared about what's coming next year? What's happening? What's about to happen? So one of the most intriguing things for me, and I've been seeing, and part of the conversation what I've been hearing with people all over the world, is that artificial intelligence is a very conflicting subject, because in general we can have a sense that this thing that is coming may create incredible scientific breakthroughs. Maybe we're going to find a cure for cancer. Maybe we can find the problem for climate problems. There are lots of incredible things that may come, but at the same time, some people may lose jobs, and maybe one of those crazy creatures are going to go rogue and do things that we don't know what they can be. So the fact that this new world ahead has a technological element that is so out of our control, and that can go at the same time so great and so bad, is what creates so much anxiety, because it's almost like we don't know what to root for. If we knew that it was going to be evil, we could say, yeah, just shut it down. But are you going to shut down the possible cure for cancer? I mean, the way that scientists have been telling me, because I've talked to so many people in so many areas, it's kind of like this. There's 90% chance that there's something incredible, that big scientific breakthroughs are going to come out of this. 90% chance, right? So we have to root for that, right? But there's a 3 to 5% chance of real bad consequences that can be a threat to the planet, to our species. In any profession, if you tell us there's 3% chance that what you do can create an event that will destroy everything, you just stop that thing. But then there's 90% that thing can solve Alzheimer's, solve the climate problem. So, okay, now we're talking, now how do we deal with that, how to think about it, and what do we root for? And that not knowing what to root for, I think is where it's causing most of the anxiety about it. I've been dealing with that by trying to, work on that in different levels, kind of try to think about that from a personal standpoint, from a professional standpoint, from a business standpoint, from an economic standpoint, and as a human being who lives in this planet as well, and try to separate them so I can root for that in one level and I can be against it in another one. At least allows me to lower my anxiety. So I think if there's one suggestion for you, that's what I've been dealing with it. And writing has been helping me a lot with that, because when I started to study the subject about 7 years ago, and I've been trying to understand the possibilities and what's coming out of it, and when I finally realized that how I wanted to think about it, how I wanted to describe it, it's like, okay, I want to write a story, a novel about it, and I want to build a character that is an AI based on the real science that is happening right now. Because you have seen like Asimov's books in the past with artificial intelligence, creatures and robots and everything, but they're all like based on what they thought the future was going to be. Now we have way more information. We can paint a much sharper picture of what they are. It's like artificial intelligence is not a robot. It doesn't have a body. It's not hardware. It's software, right? And those things and how they multiply is way faster and crazier than robots, as we thought in the past would, because software can just, have you ever duplicated a file on your computer? So just copy and paste. An AI creature can just duplicate themselves, and duplicating and creating copies of themselves and expanding in growing numbers is the core definition, is the core of the definition of life. So from the point that a being of any kind can create a copy of itself or a variation of itself, it's now starting to become more lifelike. And as it's developed and it evolves, like these things can evolve, we can start to feel like, okay, there's something here, there's some lifelike quality to it that we have to understand and think about, because right now they're not as smart as we are, but they may end up being. There estimates that the next version of the ChatGPT thing, that the brain power of ChatGPT, of GPT-5, is going to be bigger than the brain power of one of our brains. Right. Which is that we are close to a super intelligence, and we're close to a situation, to a scenario where we as human beings are no longer the smartest creature on the planet. It may happen at any time, and it's evolving fast enough that it's like kind of guaranteed that it's going to happen. So the story of this book is started from this point of view, and from these. I started to write these characters that were the AI themselves. They're creatures that were born as an accident inside of a small experiment and started to multiply and develop their own sense of self and their way to expand and the way to protect themselves, because the world did not want them around. And they don't think like AI from the books from the past. They are not Terminator or Matrix-like creatures. They think and they act and they behave the way I thought that they would based on what the science and what the technology is today. That's why I spent so much time doing research. But it's all told through the point of view of, when I wanted to build another character to display the story, to tell the story from her point of view, is told from the polar opposite of that, because polar opposites always kind of tells better stories, right? And so I went to the mountains of China, as she was talking about here, and went to found a fighter and created this fighter who was raised based on the laws and the philosophy of Taoism and Tai Chi, and grew up thinking about the yin and the yang and balancing force, and no access to technology, even more, no interest in technology whatsoever. No, the only thing that she cared in her life was fighting. She grew up fighting, and she grew up with a conflict that has nothing to do with computers or chips or anything like that. That is this idea that the Taoists and people from this region called Wudang in China, that is one of the most beautiful places I've ever seen. They call the yin and the yang. I bet that you have heard those expressions, kind of the yin yang symbol. It comes from that area. And the idea is that there's always, in any circumstance, any part of the world that you look, there's always there are opposing forces that need to be balanced. In general, they explain that the yin side is the kind of softer side, and the yang side is the more aggressive side. And this character, she was born in a place that celebrates this balance, but she was born with too much yang, too much aggressive energy. And because of that, that's why she was named Yin Yin, is because they wanted to give her double yin on her name to see if it balanced, but it did not work. So she grew up as like too much aggressiveness, and that made her an incredible fighter, but also gave her these really bad headaches. That is a real condition that we know here in the West as cluster headaches. I don't know if anyone has heard about here, but they're also called suicidal headaches because they're so bad that people throw themselves at walls, at sharp things, because to get rid of the pain. They try to knock themselves out of that. And she has that thing, and her master tells her that that's excess of yang energy, that either that is going to kill her if she doesn't take care of it, which is not true. That this disease doesn't kill you, but he thinks that her excessive yang may kill her. Excessive aggressiveness may kill her. Or if she can find a way to balance herself, the thing is going to be so big that she's going to become an immortal. So she has like that, all right, this guy either really good or really bad, there's nothing in between. So she decides to do what tigers do, as she has these nicknamed tigers. She flies to America to fight in the underground MMA things. Like, forget these balance things. I'm just gonna go all the way in, and I'm gonna deal with it. And once she gets in California, she picks the San Francisco Bay Area, which is where I lived for 15 years. She picked that place mostly because that's where Bruce Lee went. She wanted to follow his steps and wanted to become like the female Bruce Lee. And she goes there and goes fight big men of all kinds of fighting styles and beat them up left and right. And then there she meets a group of scientists that are working, that promise that they can fix her headaches, as long as she joins one of their experiments that is about protecting, that including nanobots on their brains. Another technology that is actually being developed right now and studied right now. There's a company called Neuralink from a guy maybe you haven't heard about, called Elon Musk. So Elon Musk he owns one of his companies is actually working on these brain interfaces. That is ways to connect the brain to computers, and because it's a much quicker connection and you can do way more things. So the scientists in this story, they invite Yi Yin to participate on this experiment, because what they're trying to do is find a way to connect brains, or one brain to another, because they're saying if AI can keep growing and get smarter and smarter than us, because they're infinitely scalable, we and our brains are limited by the size of our skulls. Maybe there's a way to connect one brain to another and create a network of brains. He calls it brain internet, kind of a little bit of a joke. But it's like, if you can connect all those, kind of more than one brain, connect multiple brains, maybe we can be smart enough to outsmart the AI. But it's not a good idea. right? But it's like, but they, you know, they in the story they're like, I know that it's not, it doesn't sound very promising. It's tricky, but maybe we won't have a choice if these things are to become more too much smarter than us. I mean, being enslaved by our collective mind maybe still be better than being enslaved by another creature that is much smarter than us, and we may not even realize that we're being enslaved until it's too late, right? Because these creatures may not reveal themselves to us until, you know, there's not much we can do. So that is the story. That's how the whole thing is set up, and through the eyes of this girl that does not care about technology, is thrown in the middle of that just so she can fix a very bad headache that is too much aggressiveness, that comes from too much aggressiveness in her chi. You know, that's how she ends up in the middle of this mess, in a mess that has to do with all of us. And the first piece of the book that I wrote, that is a part that is kind of more in the middle. Is a little fable that I created about the what happens when you have too much yang energy fighting another yang energy, and there is no balance whatsoever. Is a story of this tigress that had to fight against a beehive, which is the metaphor for the entire story of the book, but also a metaphor for everything that we are going to live in the next 10 to 20 years. So I cannot say, this is not a prediction of what the future is going to be like, but it is the kind of life that we may need to face. And this little fable that is that I'm going to play here is a good example of a good way to philosophically look at what we're going to go through. The irony of all this is that I'm not a very good reader. I don't read out loud very well, so I asked artificial intelligence to do a read for me. So I'm bringing the enemy to the enemy or the friend, who knows? So I brought the thing here. So you're gonna see this as an AI doing the read, but I got a friend from China to read like 20 seconds of the book. Right, not these parts, from another parts of the book, and then I use AI to take her voice and create and read that fable. So what we're going to see here is AI that learned the voice of this friend of mine reading the story, and then visually doing a display of what he was reading as well. So all the illustration, all the images that we're going to see here are also created by AI basically on what was being read. I didn't draw anything, just doing this style here, okay? That's what we're going to do.
Deep between the peaks of Wudan, there was a river with water so fresh, all animals came to drink. The river was the life of the valley, and its stream welcomed everyone, except for one spot, where the shade was best, and the water was coolest. There, only one was allowed, the powerful queen of the Konglin, ruler of all things yang and yin, divine wearer of stripes, the mighty tigress, until one day. Coming back from a hunt, the mighty queen was intercepted by a black creature crossing her path. She pounced, but by the time she reached it, the intruder had already hidden among the shrubs. The shadow monkey, the queen thought. Knowing the simian's fame, wisdom, mischief, and maybe a touch of cowardice, she gave him her loudest roar, then waited, but only silence responded. Spineless, she said to herself before resuming her stride. Though 9 steps down, the audacious creature crossed her path for a second time. "How dare you invade my territory?" she roared, eager to tear the insolent into pieces. Then, as tigers do, she waited for something to move. Just a faint sign of life, and that would be it. Nothing. Some sense must have made its way into that clown's head, she thought. So the queen marched ahead, but as soon as she relaxed, The sneaky animal did it again, his shadow now crossing straight through the queen's mouth, as if teasing her with its bodiless body. Enough! Now Tigress was furious. She paced and roared. Show your face, filthy demon. Here, your highness, said a squeaky voice from the top. I mean no disrespect. The tigress gazed up at the stirring foliage as the creature revealed himself, black-furred, big-eyed, flimsy. The mysterious shadow monkey indeed, wise wanderer of those bands. What are you doing in my path, sad little vagabond? He rose a bit higher on the tree. I bring a warning, your majesty. Tigress cackled so loud the birds for miles flew in fear. And what on earth or in the heavens would warrant me a warning, silly creature? The feline crouched. Wait, 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 begged the shadow monkey, hanging from a branch that was not high enough. He looked straight into her yellow eyes and said, There's a devil in your favorite shade, Majesty. I told her the spot belongs to the mightiest, but the creature laughed at me, said no one would have the guts to move her away. The almighty feline jerked its head to the side. What kind of animal would risk saying such a thing? An ancient dragon from the heavens, another tiger with no love for life, a phoenix who expects rebirth. She strode, fast and strong, letting her steps echo ahead, roaring rowdily to let the intruder know. Whoever it was, the queen was returning to reclaim her place. But when she arrived, there was nothing there, just a strange, earthy fruit dangling from a branch above the edge of the river. She faced the ape. Are you looking to die early, buffoon? But the monkey showed no laughter. He said, and leaped to the top of an oddly tall kumquat tree, from where he tugged a small yellow fruit and threw it right at the hanging mud bull. At first, nothing happened. Then, 1 second later, a loud buzz echoed. The earth bull, roughly the size of the queen's majestic head, began to shake, and from inside came a cloud of tiny flying creatures, each with the same yellow and black stripes as the queen. Who dares to invade my territory? Said Tigress, ready to strike once again. The shapeless haze of bees mocked her in one voice. Who dares to invade my territory? They laughed. Tigress gazed around, and for a moment allowed her neck to sink into her shoulders. But since tigers only know one way to deal with confusion, she pounced. Perfectly. One leap, one hit, and the hive was cracked on the ground, its amber blood oozing away into the stream. But then, despite the rage of the striped ruler of Wudang, the bees pounced their own little stripes too. An army of thousands, fearlessly throwing themselves and their tiny venomous edges, stabbing the great enemy in a collective suicide. For all bees die heroes when they lose their stingers. Strike after strike, the mighty feline sent the lifeless bugs crashing onto the multicolored pebbles beneath. In the dozens, hundreds. Yet there were others. There were always more to join the black and yellow swirl of yang. Around them, from every little gap and branch, a different creature watched in awe. All the aggressive energy of the universe, attacking itself with such fury. Young versus young, young plus young, unmatched, unbalanced, unharmonious. Even the mountains stared in disbelief as they battled until the last bee fell dead. And then, suddenly, silence. Real silence. At first, Tigress roared with pride, but soon she felt the burn coursing inside her veins. Dizzy and weak, she sensed her chi fading away, her head burning, the pain dropping to her heart and leaking behind her fur as the coldest sweat. Finally, the queen fell dead too. Within those sacred mountains of Wudang, home of the enlightened, birthplace of Tai Chi, the only sound alive was the voice of nothing. Like in the day before the Tao broke into heaven and earth and gave birth to life. No creature dared to breathe, no wind dared to blow. And for a moment, even the river went still. So the shadow monkey came down from his branch, hopped over the bodies, and drank the cool water himself.
Wow. Wow, that was it.
Thank you very much. You have questions, thoughts, concerns, anxieties? I'm here.
Any questions?
Okay, AI. You're talking about something that is non-existent. How are we going to know? And it's all in machine. If there was a form, I've seen some of the AI creatures that they're developing, which are absolutely beautiful and can do what we do. But what, I don't understand AI as far as where it is, what it is, how it is.
Here's the problem with this. No one really does. Right now, it seems like a harmless set of programs that are just created to do things and that they are doing. But here's the issue between it is a way that I developed to understand AI myself. But computing, pre-AI computing, right, is programmed to follow a program. There's a sequence of instructions and just follow it. So pre-AI computing is just about following instructions. AI is a new kind of computing based on what they call machine learning, which is the essential element of it. Machine learning does not follow the instructions pattern. It follows a different way of organizing the computing power that is kind of like this. I'm going to tell computers to try a lot of different things, and every time it gets closer to a goal that I gave, I'm going to give this computer a reward. And every time it gets further, I'm going to give a punishment. So the computer learns to get closer to it. Which is brilliant because it can learn very fast in multiple generations. But it makes it very unpredictable because it's not thinking like an engineer does, that is, let's follow a logical path. It's thinking like an artist does. Let's try a bunch of things and find an unpredictable path that may hit. I'm going to find and I'm going to play with that even more. There's this illustrious case of Go. Do you know the game Go? The Chinese game Go? It's like a board game that is considered one of the most complicated games in the world and very hard to teach. And computer scientists have been trying to develop a way to do that and for ages. There's the engineers at Google tried to create for the first time, like they have seen computers learning chess, but chess you can teach chess strategy to a computer. Go was much harder. So what they did is that they took two different computers, taught the computers the rules of Go, and let them play for thousands of games. And they learned how to play and learn their own strategy, created their own strategies, no human interference whatsoever. Then they got one of these computers to play against a champion. And the champion was playing against a computer and he was like in the middle of the process. There was one move that the computer gave. I think they call it like move 37. It's like it became a thing. So when the computer did that move, the master smiled and like, yeah, I won, great. And then later down the road, during kind of few steps later, he panicked. It's like, okay, this is not going where I wanted, and the computer won. And he realized that the point where the computer won was that move 37, which is not a move that has ever been cataloged by Go specialists anywhere in the world. So what they say is that the computers actually created a move that did not exist before.
I've heard about that whole thing on the radio.
So it's crazy because we have computers creating things. This is not logical thinking like we used to attribute to computers. No, it's creative thinking, which is much scarier from a development standpoint, because we don't know where they're going to go. They have an unpredictable pattern, and they're going to develop in ways that we cannot design or prepare for. And they don't have a body, so it's going to happen invisibly inside of the wires in the computers. So writing a character on that universe was fascinating and scary and exciting at the same time, because how do I write a character that doesn't have a body? How do I write a character that doesn't have the same goals that goes in life that we do, and may not even want to be seen? Because every time it makes itself seen, we are going to attack, so they have to hide, and so that's part of the character, the AI character that comes and goes inside throughout the book. It's an invisible character that is trying to survive and find a way to be left alone. But that's what's happening.
What's the future going to hold? Are we going to be subject to these brilliant AI creatures?
I don't know. We don't know if they're going to evolve to be smarter than us. We don't know if they're going to be.
They're on their way, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. But will they actually cross that line? We don't know, because it's the same way that biological evolution depends on accidents. These digital evolution also depends on accidents. They have to keep trying things and doing things with the accident they cause, and to spark new accidents and new accidents. It just happens that their evolution comes in cycles of seconds, not decades, not centuries, like biological creatures. So they evolve quickly. So it's hard to tell exactly what's going to happen. And I think that the next 10 to 20 years are going to be fascinating and worrisome at the same time, because they may evolve into dangerous place. They may evolve into a much better place than we are now as well.
I doubt it.
But don't say it too loud, because they may be hearing.
Okay.
So is this book a part of the series? Are you going to write like a sequel?
It's a good question. I don't know. I wrote in a way that it ends. Right, so if it ends, but I have thoughts on how it can possibly continue other story arches and other ways. These two characters, because throughout the book you can see that there's Yin, there's this Luddite kind of fighter taking her path. Then there's the AI creatures evolving from another direction. And you can tell that they're going to get together at some point, and they're going to have to figure something out among themselves, between the two of them. And it happens, and there's some sort of solution that happens in the end that they find. So yeah, I cannot go too much deeper than that, because there will be a spoiler. But there's a chance to create there's a chance to put a sequel, and I'm thinking about it. Let's see how the world likes the story first, and if they want another one, I may write it.
But she is an AI virgin. I mean, she knows nothing about.
She knows nothing about AI, and she hates all kinds of technology.
Okay.
She's a fighter. She likes to be punching people's faces and kicking.
She's physical.
She's as physical as it gets. So any
Wow.
sign, any mention of technology or computers, she despises it.
Does she have a soft side at all? I mean, is she feminine?
She is actually a very she's very
Androgynous.
aggressive. One of the inspirations for her character is, my favorite book is called Musashi. It's the story of the greatest samurai in the history of Japan, and it's a book that is one of my favorite parts about it. Is he starts as a thug, and then ends as a very wise man. Her journey somehow, it's not exactly like that, but her story is a story of changing from these very visceral, physical, angry woman into something else, right? And what's going to happen because of her interaction with these creatures. She's forced to behave differently, because she cannot punch creature without a body.
Not a body.
You know, when I told my friend for the first time, this is a book about Kung Fu versus artificial intelligence, and they look at me and say, what? How is that possible? I'm like, oh, I think I have something here, because that kind of, that question, that face is cool, but, you know, but that's a story.
Great concept. Yeah. Wow.
Any other questions?
Any more questions? People in the back?
Okay. Well,
All right, thank you very much. So let's do a book.
oh, yes, I have books here for sale, $15. And also, we have a raffle. And I've got to find the raffle.
Let's pick one person here who's going to bring Yin Yin home. Treat her well. Otherwise, she's going to beat you. How do you guys like the animation? It's pretty cool, right?
It's fantastic. And the voice.
AI
voice.
but he didn't tell the computer what to do.
The voice is exactly my friend. I showed it to her. She was like, "Oh my God, this is me!" But I never read that.
Yeah.
She was right. Who's that person?
Tony B. Tony.
Tony. All right. Bringing Yin home.
And using AI to mimic her voice to read that. And not only did it-
I'll get the. Can you get in my
AI
backpack?
did its own
I'll get it, I'll get it.
I wonder what AI is going to do for us
So that
socially.
based on the words.
Because even now, people are, I go to restaurants and I see a father and daughter sitting there on their phones.
Thank you.
It's going to, yay.
I'll sign it for you.
Yeah,
I'll sign it
yeah,
for you. But you know, socially, one of the I talked about the 90% chance and 3% chance. There's a 50-50 chance in the middle that a lot of specialists tell me as well. That is, there's 50% chance of AI messing up big time our
Social.
democracy and the fabric of our society. But there's also a very good chance, there's 50% chance of it being used, that is going to, of imagine that this is going to be used to, because everyone is on the same level right now, this is such a big change in society, there's also a chance that it levels the knowledge of the powerful and the powerless and make the gap so close that it may be the biggest opportunity we've had in history to restructure society, to make it more equal, to make it more difficult. But it's a very optimistic thing. But you know, maybe we should trust the computers more than we have trust humans, because humans did not bring anyone didn't bring us to a good place. You know, but you know what's going to happen with this? It is a historical opportunity to fix some of the inequalities, and a lot of that has to do with how we as a society are going to give access to these technologies to everyone and not just block it based on price, and that is the decision that we need to make during the next 5 years or so.
Wow, fascinating, really, wonderful.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you.